All right, good morning. Welcome to the Neary Building Committee Communications Subcommittee meeting. It is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. It is 9:01 a.m. All voting members are present. First item on the agenda is the meeting minutes. Any questions or comments on those? Seeing none, I'll move to approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Roger?
Yes.
Denise?
Aye.
And I am aye as well. Okay. Next item on our agenda.
The debrief.
Yeah, there we go. My phone scrolled off me yet. So debrief of open office hours feedback. So there was office hours a few weeks ago. It was on a Saturday, so it's now about 10 days. There was not a seat left in the public safety training room. So major shift in terms of participation, which was great to see. Wide range of topics that I will briefly summarize. One, there is continued significant discussion around the cost, but I would say most of the cost items, and remember, we have not officially done a presentation to the community yet of the revised cost. So everyone's still working with the cost from August, right? Which is something I'll talk about what our plan is on that in a second. But most of it was on the cost, but it was more about the cost to live in Southborough, not necessarily the cost of the project. There was significant discussion around operating budgets, which I was very clear, not the role we're in. But obviously, there was a select board member there. There was a school committee member there. So there is some crossover there. But naturally, that was definitely the largest theme. The other interesting part that I thought was new to me was a yearning for information out in the community, basically pushing information out. And I feel like every time we push the information out, we either get no engagement or people say, well, are you pushing a position? So we did get some good ideas. I think of, I think we will vet these by council before publishing anything of people want things in digestible chunks. And I think that's doable. And I think that's what the website is starting. You start to see there's been some progress on the website to really kind of chunk up the content a little bit to help us in that respect. So that was a takeaway that I think the communication subcommittee really needs to think about is as we take each of these individual hot topics, how can we present it in a succinct fashion that require only a couple minutes of someone's attention with kind of like a link if someone wants to really take a deeper dive further into it. I would say the other item that is somewhat of a continuation, but somewhat of a new item in a different respect was people were very focused on the alternates and what are our other options, as opposed to what we tried to make sure everyone's aware of is this is the option that is being presented to town meeting, right? Obviously, everyone's up to them. It's up to them to make a decision of whether it's the best option. But there was significant discussion in this session, which I had not seen or heard in about a 3-year time period dating back to a prior committee, was around 5th grade at the Trotter School. And unfortunately, we didn't have any education professionals there. So I navigated that question in a way that basically promised Greg and or Stephanie or anyone else that they feel is appropriate to have that part of a broader educational forum in the future. So Um, those were the main themes that I certainly heard. I know we lost Denise, so just wanted to see any questions or commentary there. Good, Roger.
So, and Denise, I think will support this, because she and I, were in the office hours, earlier that week. I think it was Monday night. I'm trying to recall. But I find the theme of wanting to discuss alternatives to be somewhat consistent, at least from a certain group. And there, and it's and I don't know how to, I have not been successful at kind of redirecting the conversation, even by responding directly, that we really aren't here to discuss alternatives. We're long past looking at alternatives. So we'd be happy to talk about anything that people want to talk about as far as this option, but it doesn't seem to stop that conversation. So, and I'm going to have a meeting. And I'm not sure if Denise was able to hear what I just said. I commented on Jason's comment about people wanted to talk about alternatives, right? And Jason said he hadn't heard that for a while, but we heard it on Monday night. And I have no doubt that when Mark and I go over to the senior center on the maybe the 24th, I think, 24th, 25th, in addition to some more commentary about the site, the landfill, we'll hear more questions about alternatives, which I try to stop that, right, and try to get the focus on the current alternative, which is really the only one we can discuss at this point. So, and I agree with you, Jason, that that's a theme. I'm not sure what to do about it.
Jason, can I just jump in? Kathleen Valente, I think, might be in the waiting room.
I don't see Kathleen in the waiting room.
Okay, I'll tell her she's in the wrong waiting room. Thanks.
I agree. I have to agree with Roger. That night, I mean, there's this theory in town that this is the only project that we were presented. There's a misnomer out there that the town should be voting on what the school is, or what it's going to be, or what the configuration is going to be. And I agree wholeheartedly with Roger. I think maybe 30 minutes were spent on that Monday night, about, well, why can't we add on to Finn? And why can't we do this? And why can't we do that? And why was the town not given a choice? So I think we have to lay out the fact that we looked at 12 different options, which was mandated to us, and then we culled them down. And I think the time for those people to have had input was back then. I think they have to understand these meetings are not, so I'm glad what you said happened on Saturday, but these meetings are not to discuss alternative plans. We're not at that stage.
We even had people that wanted to say, well, can we see the 12 options? And of course, we didn't have those available at the time, which it was good because it wouldn't have been, productive to get into a discussion of alternatives. And I think, Jason, this also occurred on Saturday. Part of the alternative discussion were different conversations about what different people had seen in different school systems at different points in time, about what those communities had done in configuring a new school or an old school or an ad reno. So again, I'm beating that to, I think I beat that to death a little while ago. Sorry.
Yeah. And I would say, on the bright side, I did receive feedback after the discussion, that people found some of these sessions informative, and they candidly said that they felt like they had a better grasp on the details and the facts. So that was also helpful for me to hear. I didn't ask whether they agree or not with the plan. I don't, right, it was more, do they feel like they have the right information? And they thought they were getting there, which I thought was, a step in the right direction as well. And I spent a lot of time talking to a few folks about, well, what more can we do to get that information sort of more out there? And they thought what we were doing was appropriate. And then I had another group say we should be doing more. But so I would just say to anyone that watches this meeting or anyone that comes to other meetings, if you have sort of tactical suggestions on what we can and should be doing differently and better, we're all ears, right? And I think I speak on behalf of all of us that we're open to ideas of what people want to see us doing, but it has to be within the bounds of the rules that whether it be the campaign finance rules or just the rules of just being an appointed in some cases elected official. I'm gonna move on from office hours and move into communication plan update. The update here is that the website is being kind of chunked up to address that feedback, right? So really, like if you're looking for a certain piece of information, boom, you can find it hopefully with 1 or 2 clicks. And then if you want to dive deeper, you have that option as well. The other thing we are doing, and this was sort of validated through the office hours, is we're in the process of scheduling over the next month or so 3 different types of sessions. And there may be a 4th, but I want feedback on that. We're going to do sessions primarily on the cost of the project, right? Like if you want to go into the deep dive of how this project then impacts its town finances, that's a project that's a session that I've asked Kathy to kind of co-lead with me. I think what I'm going to start doing though is I'm going to post open public meetings for all of these to allow anyone to come from the committee, and it would allow for the proper sort of engagement as we go forward. And I think is appropriate. We'll have to have minutes, but I think again, I think it's well served as opposed to relying. It doesn't mean we have to all be there, but just so everyone understands kind of the changing framework. The second session, and I'm not going in any particular order, is really around the education, right? Describing the educational plan, the educational benefits, and how the space that has been designed through the schematic design process supports the educational mission. I also think that's where you will have the discussion on grade configuration and the right right aspects there. So that will be led by Greg and Stephanie and anyone from their team that they choose to engage. And we're going to do 2 sessions for that. One will be a weeknight evening, and one will be a weekend day. Sorry, I have that wrong. That's the wrong session. We're going to do a weekday day and a weekday evening. I think we'll try to figure out a way to record that if possible, but I haven't gotten that far in terms of logistics. The last session we're going to do, and I've asked Mark to co-lead this with Bill Cundiff and Tim from PAR, is really specific to the site in answering, taking a deeper dive into the adjacency to the landfill in providing a forum specifically on that topic. Those are the 3 that are already in motion. The 4th is, I think, just kind of a general session that needs to be held that really, I'll call it, scratches at the surface of each of these items, but is more of a preview of what the town meeting presentation will look like in active Q&A. I think those are going to have to be a series of virtual and in-person sort of sessions to see until we feel like we've got the right messaging out there that is encompassing. I will say everyone, regardless of their view of the project, was adamant that they want all the information before town meeting, not at town meeting. I think that's an easy promise for us to make, because I think we have all the information, nothing is changing, cost is locked in, and now it's our job to educate. So that is the plan. welcome ideas on other things we should add, and I'll acknowledge that Roger, your hand went up at some point while I was talking there.
Okay, so three things. So when you said you're gonna post them as open meetings, these are the sessions you're talking about, right, Jason?
Yeah,
one-
yeah, I think so. There's two parts to it. One is a advertisement so that people can say we are properly advertising the meetings, which we continue to get critiqued about. The second is the actual hosting a public meeting within that so that it does not limit our attendance.
Okay, I like the fact that Zoom lowers my hand automatically. So the two other follow-ons. So as far as the cost, I know that we're still, I guess, working on the final cost. Do you know when that will be available, or when we think we will have the final cost? I'm wondering again. I'm back to thinking about that senior center day.
What day is the senior center meeting?
I think it's the 24th.
And is Kathy coming to that one with you?
Kathy is coming to that one. Well, at least she identified that she's coming to that one. Yes.
Okay. So one, just be careful of your numbers, and if we need to post a meeting for that, we can.
Well, I mean,
yeah, leave that to you too.
I'm gonna leave it to Kathy to answer the question since she's gonna be there, right?
Yeah.
She's gonna say what what she feels is appropriate to say at the meeting.
Yeah, so second, the cost information we have now, we just need it in a shareable format. So the data is there.
Okay.
The intention, if you think back to our last full committee meeting, the intention is that we would have a paragraph that specifically talks about what the administrative team did as part of their working group, which obviously Denise kind of shadowed that to an extent from a committee perspective. Like what they did is part of schematic design, so we don't lose sight of all of that discussion. And then there would be a paragraph on the cost. And then what we need to do is create now this cost presentation. So we have all the data, nothing is moving at this point. It's just a matter of rolling up our sleeves and putting in a format that is presentable.
I agree with you about the format comment. I mean, I had received from Skanska. I asked them at the last minute to get me the current cost before Denise and I had that office hours, but it really wasn't in a format. It wasn't really at that point in time in a great format. My last question also is a follow-on to your comment about the presentation. I think you may recall, Jason, that a couple of folks at the office hours said, will the presentation that is going to be made at the town meeting be available for people ahead of time? And I know we don't control that necessarily, but I know that there's this appetite to get information. That was just kind of another example, of people looking for information.
Completely agree. So I think what we do control is we get the presentation ready. We're gonna need the moderator to tell us how long we have, which dictates what that presentation can include. And I know the town clerk has been preparing from a space perspective. I know he's been a frequent visitor to Algonquin and working with the administration over there in terms of making sure the space is appropriate and the audio visual is appropriate. So I think one of the action items we have is to make sure that we understand kind of what the parameters are going to be for our presentation so that we can start working on it, agree to it as a committee, and just put it out there. We all know, though, that most of the presentation is really going to be Q&A on the floor, right? Answering questions and listening, right? A lot of times we just listen to feedback of people's opinions. So are there any other things other than, so Roger, you're doing the office hours at the senior center. We have the series of things. We're just trying to get our dates in a row here. Are there any other items that people think we need to be doing at this point from a communication plan update?
Jason, I wonder if we reach back out to Community Advocate and have them write an article of where we are.
Yeah, and I think this release should help with that too, right? I would imagine they could probably lift and shift that a little bit.
The other, in terms of dates of the educational office hours, it is going to be the 8th during the day and the 10th in the evening. We're going to keep the 10th, Jason.
Okay. All right, I'll help you with space for the 10th then.
And then just in terms of the website, so if you can look at the website, and the FAQs have been reorganized, but there is a financial question. What is the tax impact if this passes that we don't have an answer to? I think we should get something up there. And I'm not sure if the subcommittee would, author something so we can get it up on the website.
What I would propose is that for today, we post, the committee voted in late February on a revised project budget. The committee is working through a presentation of that amount, right? Because that way you're not leaving it blank.
Yeah.
And then if Denise and Roger are comfortable with it, what I would like the subcommittee to authorize is myself and Kathy to craft and post that. But if you want to have us come back to a public meeting, I'm more than happy to do that. But I think from a communication chair and a finance chair perspective, and also, she's obviously wearing the select board hat, I'm wearing the capital hat, they naturally tie together.
I'm quite comfortable with that.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Okay. So Greg, you go with the temporary response?
can-
Just
yes.
look like we don't have an answer.
Yes.
Okay. So here's what I want to do in the FAQ section here. I've received 2 pieces of feedback recently on it. One was like, give me something that's digestible. I think we're starting to accomplish that. But I think there's a lot of questions here that we don't have up here. So what I would like us not to do here, but outside of the meeting, is I don't want answers, but I think every time you each get a question, and I'm going to put this challenge out to the entire committee, we just need to start like receiving like questions that we should be answering. Because I think one of the things I'm realizing is when you live in this project every day, you think you know the questions that people have, but you really don't. And so what I would ask is, anytime you receive a question from someone in the community, or anytime you're thinking about this project and then you go to the website and you don't feel like we're properly answering it, email Greg and myself, just the question, not a proposed answer, just the question, so that we can start to categorize and inventory and draft these, so that, like, I would imagine at each upcoming meeting, we'll have just a series of, here are the new ones, sort of thing for discussion, and it'll A, make these meetings incredibly seamless, but B, allow us to be doing this more real time, as opposed to trying to say, I think we have that question, it sort of answers it, etc. That's item 1. Item 2, and I hate to agree with this feedback, but I actually think it's right. I think some of our answers right now are way too detailed, right? And almost, I think this is an art, right? Like I think part of it is there should be good detail in here, but it's coming from a tone of, we know this project like the back of our hand, right? Like we've lived it for 3 to 4 years. So I do think as we go here, we need to be thinking about, is there a way to pare down some of our responses, again, to be responsive to the feedback that, we're, they want digestible information. So that's another aspect that I'd ask Roger and Denise you to think about in between meetings, of like, go back and read these, potentially give them to, like, almost ask someone that's not involved with the project to read them on your behalf. and see what their answers, see what their reaction is. I think that's the sort of perspective that we're missing at this point, because as we live through this project, we know all the answers. We do our best to craft them, but I'm not sure that it's all, always received equally as well on the other end. So I'm going to pause, but that's kind of the genesis of what I wanted to talk about under FAQ. Any comments or questions on that?
Well,
Go ahead, Roger.
I just flipped over and I'm looking at a couple of the ones that are long, that are longer answers. And in at least a couple cases I've quickly looked at, it looks like there's only two ways. Well, there's only two ways to really shorten things. The answers don't, even the long answers don't seem to have information that is useless, right? I mean, a long answer is really something that has a number of, it said a couple of different things, within the answer. So either you eliminate some of the things it's saying, right, even though those things are accurate and potentially have value for some people to, to hear.
Yeah. So I think that's just, I'm
So
not
it'll
saying
be,
we need to do anything about it, but I think I can read these 10 more times and I can think about 10 different ways to phrase them. But I do welcome outside perspective, to the extent that you're engaging with others in the community,
okay.
with what their reaction is and what more or less they need. Did anyone have any issues with how we chunked up the questions? So we basically took the prior verbiage that we had approved, and just chunked them up into groupings. Okay. Is there anything else on FAQ?
Yeah, that looked good.
All right. So your homework is, to in real time provide any FAQs that you think need to be added. Even if you are questioning whether it's up there or not, just send it in and we'll figure it out.
Jason, I have a question about, so as far as the way that you combine these, how are they going to be presented? In other words, it's not going to be presented on a spreadsheet like this, right? It's
No, they're going to be presented in text, in line.
pretty much, it's just, this is really just an idea of how they're going to be grouped, right?
Yes.
There'll be a
Yes.
heading and it's going to say alternate options, and then there's going to be the alternate options list of things. Okay, and that's what this is really proposing, correct?
That is correct. Okay. All right, so everyone has their homework, FAQs as you have them, and then we'll bring proposed responses or ask people to draft responses in between meetings. Any public comment? Meeting schedule, we are not on this Friday, so no meeting on the 14th. We resume on the 21st. And then any other business for today? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second,
Roll call vote, Roger,
Hi,
Denise,
aye.
and I am I as well. Have a great day.
have a good day, folks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a
Bye.
nice week.